All right, Sean, let's talk about Georgia versus Tennessee. Look, as much as I think Tennessee fans, and you're a fake Tennessee fan, would like to sit here and say that maybe this game could be close. Maybe Tennessee could play spoiler. Maybe Georgia, they get upset this weekend as they're on their war path towards the SEC championship game. Now, they already clinched it. This doesn't really do anything for them except maybe put them in a position to get knocked out of the college football playoff if they lose to Alabama. But Sean, as bluntly as possible, Tennessee's catching Georgia the worst time that they could. This could be a bludgeoning.
Yeah, Tennessee stinks. They just are not.
Okay.
They stink. They stink. They're not going to be competitive. They're ranked too high. What are they, 13 still?
I don't know how they... Well, I'm curious to see how they end up in the college football playoff. We're taping this right before that, but they are a team, and I have said this since the Florida game. I've said this since the Florida game that they have been ranked too high and they've been unjustifiably
too high.
They've got good pieces, man. Like, I like their defensive line. I like James Pierce Jr. They got some decent pieces in their secondary. Jalen Wright's a really good running back, but by God, are they not balanced? And they can't match up with any of the top teams in the conference as we're seeing right now. They should be 20 to 25 if they're ranked.
Yeah. I mean, let's be reasonable here. They're not going to they're going to get dusted and busted in a similar fashion to Ole Miss. It's going to look very similar. It has to. And I'm not doing a premonition bit. I'm not saying, oh, the Spirit's talking to me and I'm making a big prediction. No, we can see the teams. We know them at this point. We have learned. This is not September trial. This is November. We know Tennessee is going to walk in and get busted up. Georgia's going to look great. They shouldn't even play Brock Bowers this game. Play him for a half. Don't even mess around. Like Georgia should not. And no one. It's not a trap game. I haven't heard anybody saying it's a trap game because it's not. It's just it is not possible. And it's one of these games where even if Tennessee pulls the upset, I'm not going to look back at myself and be like, oh, freezing cold take, because it would just have been an upset from Mars.
I mean, that's a really good point. This is one of those situations where you sit here and you think to yourself, if this thing gets pulled out, was everybody wrong? Was everybody just off base? No. For Georgia to lose this game, they would have to come out flat as all hell, and you would need something that has not happened at all this whole season. You would need Joe Milton to play the greatest game of his career. I'm talking 60+% completion percentage, which isn't high. You know, that's not a high completion percentage. That's a high ceiling set for Joe Milton. You would also need him to take less than 3 or 4 sacks, and you would need him to throw for 300 plus. That is the difference here, because I look at the games that they have gotten their heads bashed in. I look at Missouri last week. I look at second half against Alabama, and I look at against Florida. In those games, the run game got taken away early, and they started to try and play catch up, and they just don't have the receivers that they had last year, and they also don't have a quarterback who is proficient or consistent enough as a passer to throw the ball. They just don't. That offense works when it's balanced. They're running the ball, and then the passing game opens up as a result of it. Instead, we see that when it's lopsided, they not only do they lose, Sean, they get blown out. You are blurry as all hell. You good over there? You're doing a Joe DeLeone?
I had to do your bit. Oh, that stunk. Yeah, I was moving my mic. Gosh, that's you know what? All right. There's one off of you, pal. I will give you a freebie today.
Okay. To reiterate my point, though, if they can't run the ball, which they're not going to have an easy time doing, Joe Milton's going to need to do his thing.
I don't know what his thing is. What's the thing that he's going to do? What is it?
Act 6 times and throw 2 picks.
That's his thing? I need Joe Milton to not do Joe Milton's thing. That's what Tennessee fans should be rooting for.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Don't be Joe Milton.
And that's not like a hating ass take. It hasn't worked enough. Do something different. Evolve a little. That's where we're at, because it sounds like, oh, Joe Milton can never be it because you can't. There's different ways to operate. There's ways we can figure it out. What you've done, and it feels like, God, I hate that the show always goes back to Francesa, but Francesa's rant about Tommy DeVito, right? He had a great one. He said, "Why are you, as a professional franchise, trotting somebody out there at the quarterback position who can't get the job done?" I'm not saying Joe Milton can't get the job done, but the way that he's being used and whatever it is not good enough to compete for the SEC championship. So why
No.
are you, as Tennessee, continuing this stretch of mediocrity? You had the momentum going into the season. You had it. You still had some momentum in September and October, and you pissed down your leg.
Well, see, that's actually something that I've always kind of. It's a really good talking point. I've kind of thought about this season that, and it all came with everyone glazing him in the offseason. Look at these throws, man.
How could you not?
Yes, physically the kid is gifted, but I can't imagine that with that quarterback room that you could sit there and go, "Yep, we're feeling pretty good about this." I don't understand why they didn't try to bring somebody in, and I know that there weren't a ton of options in the portal, but how you don't at least bring in somebody who's backup competent? Because right now the situation is it's him, and I
You
would
want
presume
Buckner?
it's. I mean, I don't. Tyler Buckner's just like
That's
a
backup
shorter version
competent.
of it.
That's who
But I'm
you're
not.
looking at, Joe.
That's not what I'm getting. I mean, I'm trying to think
They need to
who's a.
simplify it for Milton. They needed to simplify it.
Whoa, wait, but that's to be fair. In the games that this offense has played well, it has been simplified, and that's fine. They've beaten up on all the crappy teams that they've played. But the minute that you've asked him to just play the quarterback position and say, like, hey, man, the run game's not going to open up every drive. You got to do some things on your own. He has faltered heavily when he's been asked to do everything. Or not, sorry, let me rephrase. When he's been asked to just play quarterback, he's faltered.
It's actually the exact opposite of what Carson Beck has done. Where at Carson Beck, the better teams that he's played, the better he's looked. It's like, oh, now I can start playing quarterback. I'm not playing, AAU anymore. It is what it looked like when he's playing bad teams. When he's playing good teams, it's like, who's this kid? He's slinging it. He's moving the ball down the field. He's making the right throws. And I know he's got the weapons. I know he's got McConk, and he's got, I know it's McConkley or something like that. I know it's McConk, and then
McConkey.
Bowers, and then he's got the weapons. But when he's playing a ranked opponent, he looks solid, comfortable, and confident. It's not what Joe Milton looks like when he's playing a ranked opponent.
Right. That's just to kind of wrap up our thoughts on this game. Again, we both think that this is going to be really lopsided in Georgia's favor. Carson Beck's performance this year, especially early on when the run game wasn't there, when the offensive line was banged up, when Ladd McConkey wasn't available in the receiving room, like they were on like third or fourth running backs. Like they were really deep down the running back chain when they played bad against Auburn and bad against South Carolina. But no one talked about how Carson Beck just stepped up to the plate. And he has, despite all these limitations early on, and now we're seeing him in his full comfort mode, and I think that benefits his development and his progression for the rest of the season. And for them to go on another title run is get all the bad out of the way early on in the season. Let him go through the adversity against the weaker opponents. So now he's feeling confident. And so that when those difficult situations arise, which it's going to arise against Alabama, it's going to arise against whoever you play in the college football playoff, if it's Texas or if it's Washington or Oregon,
whoever,
those are going to be the difficult situations. He's already been tested. Like how much is like a guy like Jalen Milroe really been tested? How much is a guy like
he was tested versus Texas? But here's the thing: Milroe was also benched. Milroe had a tough start to the season.
That we're not doing the whole. He wasn't benched.
He was benched. Was he not? Did he play? Did he not play in a game?
There was speculation on it wasn't a performance-based benching though. It was speculative on the reasoning as to why he didn't start that game.
Okay, well, when the speculation clears up, then we'll have an answer. I like the speculating that Saban was trying to hide his playmaker. I like that.
But more okay. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, but more on the thoughts on Milroe. They've started using him differently. They've started using him better. Alabama turned around when they figured out how to get the most important position on the field to execute. Tennessee is still treading water. There's levels to this. These are the levels we're seeing. And I think Heupel's a good coach, but this is concerning. This is a concerning lack of development throughout a season.
It's a good point. You've got two guys that are both very good athletes, and one of them is being used as a weapon.
Somewhere, when you see it happen somewhere else, it makes you you're just like, why can't my guys do this? When you look at what the Eagles did in their rebuild, and you look at the Commanders still worried about maybe another name change, which BetOnline put out more odds for.
No, of course they did.
And we're still talking about that here in DC, and the Eagles are in the Super Bowl last year after a huge rebuild. You are envious, and you wonder what's going on in my city. What's going on with my leadership? Because it's possible, it's doable, it's the system. And we're not executing. Tennessee is not executing that.